You want there to be airflow. If I left these in this bucket, they would just rot, just ripen in peace there. Now these are some that have been sitting in this box for a couple of weeks. They started off like this, they started off green, and now they have ripened. These have been in here 3 or 4 weeks, I think. Hi friends, welcome to Sunflower Hill. I'm Tina. I'm a single mum homesteading in southern Australia in Victoria. And today I'm going to be collecting the rest of the tomatoes. It is June here, which means that it's the first month of winter, and I still have tomatoes on the vines up here. The main reason for that is because of this cover up here. So that 50% shade cloth cover has prevented them from getting frostbitten and destroying the plants. The plants that were planted in the open down further in the pumpkin growing area, they have definitely been wrecked, and the fruit on them is no good anymore. There wasn't much, but as soon as we got really cold nights, sort of 3 degrees, and a bit of frost, they were no good anymore. So basically this is a changeover of seasons. I'm going to allow the chickens in here. There's already a couple of ducks in here. A couple of chooks have let themselves in. This is the 4th run of my emporium, and it's where I grow my summer veggies nowadays. So I'm going to collect the rest of these green tomatoes, and I'm going to show you what you can do with green tomatoes so you don't waste them. There's a couple of things you can do with them, but I like to just take them inside and ripen them, and you can do that. So let me show you how. Now these tomatoes are really pretty green. They are just okay enough that they will probably ripen. Let me show you the absolute minimum amount of colour that you need on them in order to pick them and think that they will ripen inside. These are they're getting light green. Ideally, you want to wait until they get a bit of white sort of look about them. Obviously, the more colour they get, the better. If they start getting pinkish, even better. But these should be okay to ripen inside. There's 2 things you need to take into account beyond the colour of the tomato if you want to ripen them inside. The first is that you need to pick them with a bit of stem on, at least to that first joint there. The second is that you want the skin to be undamaged. It doesn't matter if there's something like this, you just can't have any damage to the skin that gets through the skin and into the tomato itself, because you will get rot in that. You'll get bacteria getting in and the tomato will rot, won't be any good. So this one is fine. It might be a bit too green, but at this point, there's no point leaving them. They're not going to ripen out here. So at this point, I'm just going to collect the rest of these tomatoes. I have had young ducks in here, which means that there's been a fair bit of damage to the plants as well. But, you know, it was so late in the season, it didn't really seem like much of a problem at this point. There's something else I'm going to do, but I'm going to pick these tomatoes first. But I'm going to try something out with the little cherry tomatoes. I'm going to see if I can put them into a pot in the polytunnel and see if I can get them to grow again and fruit over winter. We'll see how we go. I think at the very least, I know they'll stay alive and well over winter in a polytunnel. At the very least, I'll get fruit as early as I possibly can in spring. So let's pick all of these, and then we'll cut down one of those cherry tomato plants, and we'll see how that goes. We'll put that in a pot. Okay. So these 2 tomatoes here neatly show what you're looking for. This one is fine. That possibly may be a problem. That may cause rot, but I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to pick it here at this first joint. You can see the joint there. I'm going to pick it there. Okay, so we'll give that one a go. This one here, you can see has had damage. I'd say it's split while it's ripening because we've had uneven water, uneven rainfall. We have not had a lot of rain, but we've had sort of downpours and then nothing for a period of time. This could also have been eaten by something. So I'm going to leave this here for the chooks. Even though this has got a bit more of that pinkish sort of colour that you're looking for, it won't ripen before it rots. It will rot first before it ripens. So I'm going to leave this here for the chooks. And I'm going to keep picking. Something like Something like this probably will rot too, but I'm going to give it a go. Something like this one is, it's probably a little bit immature. I doubt that it will ripen, but I'm going to give it a go. These are quite nice big tomatoes. They're a really nice variety. I just got them in way too late, which is why they're still sitting here ripening now. Something like that is way too immature. It's a dark green. It's really small and tight. No way it's going to ripen. You might want to turn this into chutney. I'll pick a few of these and see if I get round to chutney. But I probably won't. Realistically, I don't tend to have time for chutney anymore. Again, bit of damage. I expect that probably won't make it, but we'll give it a crack because it's only one spot. I may get half a ripe tomato and some damage up here, so I'll give it a crack. But ideally, and that one, this has come off. That's not ideal because it lets in bacteria there. Same deal as with the pumpkins. You really don't want to do that. You really want to leave that calyx there on. But it came off while I was picking, so we'll see how it goes. No point leaving them here now because it's just getting way too cold. The flavour of tomatoes is affected by temperature, so it's why you don't want to store your tomatoes in the fridge if you can avoid it, because it loses a lot of the flavour. I guess the aromatic compounds that gives fruit its flavour, or gives tomatoes their flavour, is damaged somehow by the cold. So these tomatoes have been through a bit of cold. I'm not expecting them to be as tasty as if they'd ripened outside in the sun. Anything that's still left here on the vine, I'm going to pull the vines down off this trellis and the chickens can just compost them. They're ready and waiting over there. The rooster's already come in here, but the girls are all ready and waiting to be let in. These are these wonderful ripen tomate, which I'm probably butchering the name, but these are a wonderful variety that I've been trying out for the last 2 years. I just thought they would be a bit of a novelty and kind of amusing to grow, but they are really good practical tomatoes. And look at these. In June, in the second week of winter, we've had temperatures as low as 2-3 degrees overnight. Quite a lot of temperatures like that. And look at that, they're still ripening. So I highly recommend these tomatoes. Give them a crack. And you can also pull off segments. This one's got quite big segments, but you can take that off and eat it separately from the rest, and the rest will still ripen. They're separate fruits, all in a bunch like that. So that's a very cool kind of tomato. And a lot of them are ripening, still ripening here, even though the plants are no good. The flavour, as I said, the flavour will not be what it is in summer, but they'll still be good enough to eat. This year I grew 2 types of smaller cherry tomatoes, and this is one of them. These 2 bigger ones here, you can see they're what size they are. They're maybe 1 inch across. These 2 will definitely ripen. You can see they've got a bit of that orangey, yellow, pinky sort of colour coming through the green. They should be fine. These ones down here are too immature. That one, maybe. But these are too immature. So this plant here, I'm going to leave these on so I know which plant this is. It's this one down here. And I'm going to cut this right back and dig it up and put it in a pot, because I think there's a fair chance that this may fruit over winter if I give it a go in the polytunnel. There's nothing wrong with picking a bunch like that, and then whatever ripens will ripen. It's good to leave a bit of stem on. Not quite, I think it actually gives them a little bit of nutrients, you know, whatever nutrients are left in the stem as well. This one's still quite green, so there's probably something left in it. The rest I'll probably leave of those really small ones. Those ones, not worth picking. Okay, now we'll come across here, and the last type of tomato I grew this year is these very small cherry tomatoes. You can see next to my hand, they're probably only about 1 centimetre across. So they are actually still ripening out here on the bush. And I have actually been eating these off the bush. This one down here is probably just about ready to eat. You can see how tiny it is, but that tastes really nice. So there's a few here that are sitting there ripening. They're not as sweet as they would be in summer, but they're still nice. A little bit underripe, a little bit bitter, but you know, it's July. That's pretty good. So I'm going to harvest the rest of these. I'll probably harvest the bunches, and then I'm going to cut this plant as well and put this in a pot in my polytunnel and see if we can't get it to grow these little guys over winter. See how we go. All right. Okay, that was pretty cool. That took maybe 20 minutes, and I have got a 10-litre bucket of tomatoes. That's a lot of tomatoes, so it is definitely worth popping out at the end of the season and collecting your green tomatoes, especially if you can actually ripen them inside. Of course, there are other things people do with green tomatoes. You can absolutely make them into pickles, you can make them into chutneys, you can cook them green. There's lots of things you can do with green tomatoes, but I personally am not a huge fan of cooked green tomatoes, or I guess a nice chutney is good, or a nice pickle. But I like to try and ripen mine. So that's what I'm going to do with this 10-litre bucket. And I will show you how I do that next. So let's go inside and I'll show you how I ripen these. Okay, let's take these down and I will show you what I'm going to do with them to ripen them. You can't just leave them in the bucket, they'll rot. They need to be set up. It's really simple, but I'll just show you what I do. Let's go. All right, so the trick is just to put the tomatoes in a cardboard box or on a wooden shelf. You want there to be airflow. If I left these in this bucket, they would just rot because there's not enough airflow. In this box, they can just ripen in peace there. Now, these are some that have been sitting in this box for a couple of weeks. They started off like this. They started off green and now they have ripened. These have been in here 3 or 4 weeks, I think. So it does take a little while. The trick is to make sure that you leave this enough stem on them. So the trick is to leave the top on them, this little bit of stem here, leave that bit of stem, and then put them upside down. So you want to ripen them so they're sitting on that piece of stem. So let's put some in. This one has damage. I don't think this will be much good, but we'll put him in and we'll just put him up that other end. You can see these little ones ripen super well in the box. That is delicious. That is so good. All right. So very simple. Box or a wooden shelf. This is the one that doesn't have the stem left on it. Not as good. This looks like it's rotty. It's not. There's no actual damage. I don't know what that discoloration is from. Again, I'll give it a go. You want to check these boxes about once a week so that if there is anything rotting or going a bit funky, you can take it out before it affects everything else. Very simple. Put them top downwards and then just leave them. Now, a little trick if you want to get them to ripen quicker is to put a banana in with them, because bananas release a chemical ripening agent, which is just a gas. Oh, I'm having a mental blank. I do know what it's called. Having a complete mental blank. I'll put it on the screen. But bananas, if you want to ripen anything, put bananas in with them. Bananas that are in the process of ripening. And you don't want to put too many layers of this. So I found this long skinny box I got a plant in, and that's really good. You might want to maybe put 2 layers and then that's it. You don't want to have them sitting all on top of each other, because then the ones down the bottom, you'll miss them and they will start rotting. There's a couple that have come away without their stems, so I'll keep a close eye on those. All these little ones, and I like to tend to sort of group them together so that things that are going to ripen at about the same time are sort of together. So all these, I treat these Riza tomatoes like as though they were small tomatoes, as though were cherry tomatoes, because those little segments ripen individually. And that's it. That's as simple as it is. Okay, so I'm going to get this cherry tomato plant out now. I'm not going to try and save all of these limbs here. Sorry, going to be a bit of a limb chop going on. There's no way this is going to keep growing through winter and produce useful fruit. But if I chop down the bottom, I think there's a fair chance of getting new growth. That will do just that. And if it doesn't produce fruit over winter, it should certainly give me a really good head start in spring. So let's just chop this fella right down and get him out of the ground. So I'm cutting above a node here. These lumpy bits here are the nodes. They're where you're getting undifferentiated cells and where you're going to get new growth from. So I'm cutting just above those to leave some of those attached to the plant. I'm going to do the same here. There's a couple of nodes here. I'm just going to cut above that one, and this one I might go right down here. You don't want to leave too much on the plant, or I don't want to leave too much on the plant because I don't want it to have to carry too much over winter. So I think this is all one big plant that comes from down here. This is fairly new growth here, so I'm just going to cut that back to there. And it's a little bit hard to see what's going on here. I'll have a better idea once I dig it out. But I want to get it right down to quite low so it's not having to sustain too much growth while it gets going again in a pot. Massive disruption to the plant to take it out of the ground and put it in a pot, and especially at this time of year when it's been through a fair bit of cold already, It's not going to be happy Jan, but we'll see if we can get it to a point where it will be able to recover and give us some fruit. All right, I think that's severed most of that top growth. Actually going to take that way back. Right. I'm going to get as much of the root system as I can, but tomatoes don't have a huge root system. There we go. That's it there. That was very easy. And I'm going to take as much of its soil with it as I can to minimise the shock to the plant. There's still a bit of root system over there, but we'll see how we go. It's got a lot of roots, and tomatoes are very hardy plants. They're very good at growing new roots. So, okay, I missed a bit there. I'll just remove that. There. Off you go. And I may chop this back more once I get it into the pot. I'll just see what I've got left. And look at this. There's actually also, okay, we've got a 2 for the price of 1. There's actually also a Cape gooseberry in there. So I'll pot that guy up as well. May as well. So you can see there's, a fair bit of disturbance to that root system. It's not going to be happy camper, but we'll see how it goes if we give it nice conditions in the polytunnel and give that a good water, some seaweed. Hopefully that will survive. Okay, I've already set this pot up. You guys had a bit of a sneak peek look at this when I was doing my last video about the green garlic. So I've put all of this nice stuff into this big pot. This is a very big pot. I don't know, actually it's not even a pot. It's an old recycling bin, but it's perfect for the job. I'm not going to plant that in there. It will absolutely take over the Cape gooseberry. I'll put that somewhere else. I'll put this tomato in here. And I am going to mulch that. I'm going to put some straw from the chicken pen in there. I'll mulch that really well. So that's really all there is to that at the moment. Obviously I'm going to water it. I'm going to give it some of this hideous concoction here. It smells as bad as it looks. It's a chicken poo tea, and it smells appalling, looks appalling. I'm also going to give the plant, I'll give the plant a little bit of that, and I'll put some of this in it as well. This has got compost, liquid seaweed meal or liquid seaweed, and liquid fish emulsion. So that should give this guy a bit of a protection and a bit of a chance to get going again. I won't give him too much of anything, just a very mild little dose of this to help its root system recover from that whole ordeal. So in one of my next videos coming up soon, I will be rejuvenating and rejigging this entire space, this polytunnel space here, and I will bring you along and show you what I'm doing. So this is just my first, this is a bit of that lovely chook poo tea, not too much of that because I don't want to give it a massive nitrogen kick all at once when it's trying to re-establish. I want to give it lots of minerals and a chance for the roots to get re-established. It's what the seaweed does. So it has got a good root system on it, this plant, but we'll see how it goes. You need to give a plant that you're transplanting lots and lots of water to get the roots to settle in, especially if you've dug it up. And as you can see, I'm giving it a lot of water. That will help settle the new substrate around the roots, around the root system. And I've given it plenty of its old soil from the run where it was growing. Okay, now, so that should be okay now. I'll bring you back in a few weeks and we'll see how this plant's going. It's going to take a little bit of a knock. It'll take some time to recover. I have actually left some of this green growth on it because it'll give it a chance to photosynthesize. There's even some flowers and potential fruit on here. So I'm just going to see how it goes. If all this dies off, I'm not going to be too bothered. I'll cut it right back and I'll see what it does in spring. But at the moment, I'm just going to give it a chance to actually keep growing over winter and see what it can do in here in this polytunnel, because it's quite warm in here. Okay, friends, thank you very much for joining me. That's about it today. I just wanted to show you what I do with my pumpkin. Not my pumpkins. I've shown you the pumpkins. I wanted to show you what I do with my tomatoes at the end of the season. So there is hope for ripening tomatoes at the end of the season. And there is also hope for your plants. Look, it depends on your climate, of course. If you're in a super cold climate, you want to get out there before your first frost. If you're going to have really, serious frost, serious snow, ice, anything like that, then of course you want to get out and get your last tomatoes and grab those plants if you want to save them for overwinter before that happens. But my climate is relatively mild and I can grow things over winter. If you want to overwinter tomato plants, also capsicums and eggplants, just get out there before it gets too cold, before the plants actually die, while there's still some life in them. Cut them back and put them in a pot and keep them somewhere protected over winter. Even if it's not super warm, you just don't want them to freeze, but you certainly can keep all of those plants alive over winter. And the bonus is that then you don't have to start from seed the next spring. And even if you haven't got a warm enough situation for them to fruit over winter, they'll get going nice and quickly in spring. They've already got a root system established. They're a mature plant. You're going to get fruit from those plants much more quickly, much earlier than if you have to establish things from seeds. And the other bonus is that if you've grown something that you like and you like, you get to keep that plant, exactly that plant, and get fruit from it again. So saving those plants over winter is a really great idea. And saving the last of your tomatoes so that you can have ripe tomatoes over winter, well, a bit longer into winter, is also, to me, is worth doing. May not be to you, that's totally fine. Make pickles or feed them to the chooks or whatever. It's also a space thing, of course. If you don't have space, if you need to get your winter veggies done, you need to pull out those tomatoes, just you work with what you've got. All right, friends, thank you so much again for joining me. I love hearing from you in the comments. So if you want to comment down below, that would be fabulous. All nice comments, greatly appreciated, and I enjoy chatting to you. I will always answer. May take me a little while to get back to you because I'm flat out, but I will always get back to people. And if you haven't subscribed yet, if you could subscribe down there and give the like button a little bit of a smash-o. It's all free. It costs nothing, but it helps me a lot. It helps my channel get going. All right, friends, thank you very much. It's hooroo from me, hooroo, and it's hooroo from hooroo.